Welcome card making friends, I'm Trisha Morris at Club Scrap with the Bright Blooms Card Kit Workshop. We are going to make a dozen gorgeous cards together today, and from that we'll have very few scraps if you follow along with these instructions. And I think we will start by setting aside all of the items that came in your kit with one exception, and that is the paper. That's where all of our workshops begin. We'll sort out the paper in the order we're going to use it. I've got my trimmer handy here and my accordion pocket file. That's going to keep us organized while we trim those papers for all 12 cards all at once. So let's grab our paper pack, and I'm going to hold it upright so I can see everything very easily, and let's just sort through it. So we're going to find one sheet of orange. Now I'd like to point out that this orange paper is pretty special. It's actually a duplex sheet, so if you find an orange, on the other side you're going to see pink, which is kind of cool. You've got lots of options for personalizing your cards to your preferred colors. But I'm going to take this orange and put it face down, so the pink is facing up. Yeah, I know that's kind of confusing. And then I'm going to find a yellow, and then one sheet of black and one sheet of pink. So in your stack it'll be pink, and then you're just going to turn it face down. Okay, now we're going to do all that one more time. So one orange, one yellow, one black, and one pink. Next you're going to find something that's typically not included in your kit, and we've got two sheets of white plain paper in the size of 8.5 by 11. So those will be next for our trimming. Then you'll take both sheets of the printed paper that look like this, just that all over print, put those face down, and then finish up with some Cutaparts. The first one I want you to grab has this narrow single floral strip on the edge, and then the other one has the black circles on one side. So that'll go face down as well. And then flip the whole stack back over so that orange is going to be on top. I'll neaten that up, and usually I like to put that on my left, and then I have my instructions on my right. That's typically how I set up my workspace, and it works pretty well. So to start, we are going to be creating some panels and card bases from this orange sheet of paper. So eventually it's going to be folded, and especially with a paper this heavy, we want it to be folded with the grain. So I'm just going to push in on the paper in each direction and see which side offers the most resistance. Now this is very hard to push in. This is a little bit more favorable. Okay, so if I wiggle it this way versus this way, I can see some differences. And what I want is the paper to be put into the trimmer so it bends easily from the top of the trimmer to the bottom. And then I'm going to take a second sheet, believe it or not, and this is the case if you're working with a guillotine style trimmer. If you're using a slider trimmer, you're going to have to do this one sheet at a time. And I will check my grain direction with the yellow. This has a linen texture on one side, and I usually work with the texture side facing up, give it a wiggle, and sure enough, it's going to go. I want it dipping easily from top to bottom as well. Stack those two sheets neatly together, and our first cut is at 11.25. So there's 11.25. Stabilize firmly on this clear bar, and just again double check your 1, 2, 3 columns away from the 12 and give it a slice. And then we're going to slide down to 7 inches. Nice whole number for you. Firmly stabilize. Again, this paper is so heavy, if you don't stabilize, it will move when the blade comes down. And we don't want that. All right, now rotate this 12 by 7 so it's horizontal, and we'll trim at 10. And we've just created our first card base. These, I'm going to score these simply because we are working with an 80-pound cover weight paper. So let's just set these aside. In fact, I have my score pal over here way on my right. So if you have the space, just put it right on top of your score pal off to the side. And then we're going to pick up that little 2 by 7 that fell off the end here. And let's trim this at 6.25. 6.25. Okay, this is going to go in pocket C. Now, if you don't have an accordion pocket file like this, just put it in a pile that you've labeled C. Maybe grab some Post-it notes or something, and just so we can stay organized. And then this guy, I regret to inform you, is a scrap. Okay, now I'm going to take the next strip. This is 4.25 by 12, and let's cut this one at 9 and 6.25. So that's 6, and then go 1 column to the left. That's your 6.25. And this larger piece goes in pocket C. And then the next piece that fell also goes in C. And the last piece there is A. And now we have this long strip for pocket D. Now D is actually where we put things we didn't use in the cards. You can always add more layers or more strips or whatever you want to your cards with those didn't use pieces. We just like to keep them until we're sure we don't need them any longer, and you can get rid of them because they're not that big and there's not that many. Okay, now we have to do the same exact thing again with 2 more sheets of paper. So I'm going to wiggle, wiggle, wiggle. It's very stiff in that direction, very floppy. We want it flopping from top to bottom. I hope that makes sense to you. And then give it the push test. That pushes in hard. This pushes in more easily. So let's stack these pieces neatly together. And once again, we'll trim at 11 1/4. So I'll find the whole number 11, go to the left 1 column, stabilize here, and give it a slice. Once again, pushing firmly so that that paper doesn't move. Now we go to the 7 one more time, stabilize and slice, then rotate, and we'll trim at 10. Here we go, creating 2 more card bases to set aside on the score pal. And then the strip gets trimmed at 6 1/4. I'll plop this in pocket C with their friends. And then we again created the 2 little scraps. Pick up this guy and we'll cut at 9 and 6 1/4. All right, pocket C in that larger panel. And then again, pocket C on the next panel. And that final piece, A. And 1 more pair of strips for pocket D, David. Okay, here we go with orange again. Let's do our floppy test. It wants to go, I want it to dip easily again from the top of the bottom of the trimmer. And you'll always know that in the instructions with the indication of the arrow here that points up and down. So that's the paper I want, the way I want the paper to dip, okay? And then I want the yellow as well to do the same thing. Oh, look at that drippy paper. That's what we want. Someone once told me that they think of it in the way of the points of the arrows kiss, okay? If that helps, you know, whatever we can do to make it clear how that paper goes in. Let's trim this one at 11 1/2. So that's 11 plus 2 columns to the left of the 11. Firmly stabilize here. And then 10 1/2. So we're just going to make a 1-inch piece. And 6 1/4. Rotate, and we'll cut at 11 3/4. So that's going to be way near the 12, 1 column to the right of it, and you're going to create a tiny little piece. And then 9. And here we created another pair of card bases that need to be scored. So I'm going to set those aside, grab the next strip, and we'll cut at 4. This guy, pocket A, and the one that fell off the end here, D, and then you've got these really skinny little strips. Those go in D as well. These, yeah, save them because I think I have an idea for you. And then we have this strip here. We'll trim at, now just follow carefully with me, okay? I'm going to slow things down just a hair. I want you to trim first at 11 1/4 and 5 1/4. And then hold. So once you trim at 5 1/4, take the piece that's still in the trimmer and rotate it so it's vertical and cut it at 4. I'm here to be your guide on the twists and turns of life. All right, put this in pocket A, and then you had some little strips that fell. If you want, save them. And then you have this larger panel for pocket B. I think that's the first time we've thrown anything in there. And then some scraps again for D. You have the wider strip that remains. We are going to trim this at 9 and 6. And now you've created a longer strip and then 2 shorter strips that match. All of them go in pocket B. And you have the long strip again to be saved in D, David. And we get to do all of that one more time. Okay, so let's check our dippy. I want it curving from top to bottom, and same on the pink. Now this duplex paper is just a little bit more feisty, okay? So just make sure you have it dipping top to bottom, and that'll make our folding go much easier. Again, we're gonna start out here at 11 1/2, and then 10 1/2, and down to 6 1/4. Rotate and do an 11 3/4 and 9. This is a card base. Set them aside on the pile. Pick up the rectangle that fell and trim it at nice even number of 4. Put this in pocket A, and you've got this little rectangle that fell for D, and you've got 2 narrow strips here for D. And pick up the next strip. This is 4 1/4 by 12 right now. We'll cut at 11 1/4, 5 1/4, rotate the 5 1/4 so it's vertical, and trim at 4. This goes in pocket A, the larger in B again. You've got these little scrappies that fell. I guess there were some other ones too. Those can all go in D if you want. And then you have this wider of the 2 strips that are left. It's only 1 inch wide. And we're going to trim this again at 9 and 6. And all of the pieces you created from that strip go in pocket B, as in Bravo, and then some narrow strips for D. You are going to love this next step. I'm taking both sheets of the white and I'm going to place them horizontally into the trimmer and cut at 5 1/2. Ta-da! 2 card bases, 2 more. So 4 get set aside to be scored. And now we're moving on to page 2 of the instructions and to our first sheet of the beautiful print that we have here. And it doesn't really matter which direction it goes into the trimmer. It's the same no matter what you do. So let's trim at 11 3/4. So again, that's going to be 1 column to the right of the 12. And then 8 and 4. Now here you have 2 4-inch pieces. And what I like to do, if I'm going to trim them at the same time, I'm going to stack and trim. When it's a print like this, I like to put the white sides facing each other and just trim this at 6 inches. Facing them just prevents it from being a little slippery, which we don't want. And then you can face everything to the right side again and place them all in pocket C, Charlie. And then pick up the next strip. This one is only 3 3/4 by 12. And we'll cut at 10 and 5. Gather up all the pieces you created from that strip. They're going to go in pocket A. Here we are at the next print. Oh, I forgot to mention, you can pop this one in D. For our next strip, I'm going to trim it at 10 1/4. So that's fine, the whole number 10. 1 column to the left. Then 8 1/2, halfway between 8 and 9. And then 4 3/4. 4 3/4. All right, now we have a bunch of cuts to make here, so just bear with me. Rotate the piece that's in your trimmer base. We're going to cut at every inch until we arrive at 4. Okay, and then we're going to cut at 3 1/2. So it's not too bad. It's just a lot of cuts, but they're all easy. So we're going to trim at 11, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4. Those are 4, and then 3 1/2. Ta-da! All right, this piece, this larger one, A. And then if you're just real careful, if you pick up all the pieces that fell, there's going to be a skinny one for pocket D, David. All the rest of these 1-inch strips go in pocket B, Bravo. Now, the next piece is 3 3/4 by 12. We'll cut it at 10 and 5. That's kind of a repeat of a previous. Gather everything up that just fell, and it goes in pocket A. Our pockets are filling up all of the things we're going to need to make all of our cards. 2 more strips that are the same width. I'm going to place them white side to white side and trim at 6. Nice, easy number here. Put everything to rights again and place all of these in pocket C. Now we've arrived at our sheets of Cutaparts. Both of them need to have the outer perimeter removed according to those guidelines that we've printed on the corners. By doing that, it ensures that we start at exactly the right spot so that as we trim, everything's gonna look really nice. So the accuracy of this step is kind of important. For my first cut, what I like to do is just trim shy of that mark, like a little bit to the right side of it, so that I can shorten the piece a little. I'm just gonna leave that shy cut there and rotate. Once I do that, if I look at the outside edge of that blade here, and I can line up that mark real carefully, both at the top and if I look at the bottom. And you may wanna just tilt or just do what you have to do to get it aligned as accurately as you can. Remembering that you can always go back and make a second cut. Like if I'm not quite happy with that, I can cut a shaving off of this again, just to make sure I'm getting a nice start. Look at my shaving. Look at what this trimmer can do. It's absolutely amazing. Okay, now I rotate again and line up that mark, top and bottom. Careful, careful. And rotate. And now this time, I should be able to look over at my 12 on the left side, and you'll notice then that the hash mark on the right is lined up with the blade. That's always a good sign. And then one last rotation to shave off that first cut I made to completion. Remove your scraps, and we're gonna make sure that this border strip here is on our right. Now be very careful. Do not assume this is a 1-inch strip. We're gonna do something a little weird, okay? It's necessary for the plan I have. I always have an end game in mind. I would never make you trim at a weird measurement if I didn't absolutely have to, okay? So the number is 11 1/8. So you find your 11, you find your 11 1/4. 11 1/8 is halfway between those two numbers, and there's a medium-sized hash mark there. So I'm gonna line that up, and I'm gonna visually confirm that the blade is gonna perfectly slice off that edge. That's all there is to it. Okay, then we're gonna go to 7 1/2 and 4. That wasn't so bad. Okay, now rotate the 4-inch piece. First cut is at 10, making sure that the words "no one is you" are on the left and that "wishing you a beautiful birthday," that should be on your right. Again, that's 10, 7 1/2, 5, 2 1/2. All right, 1, 2, 3. These 4 pieces all go in pocket C, Charlie. And then this last one goes into pocket B. Easy peasy. Now we're gonna grab this next piece and go ahead and put it in the trimmer so that "wishing you a beautiful birthday" is on your right once again. And our first number here is 9. 6 3/4. That's kind of easy. Visually, you can still see where the blade's going to be in between. Then go to the nearest 1/4 inch, which in this case is 4 1/2, and then 2 1/4. All right, 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces the same size go in pocket A, and then you have this larger rectangle for pocket B. And grab the next piece. Now, bear with me once again where we have a few necessary oddities, but again, visually, it should kind of help you line things up. Our first cut is at 10 1/8. So again, that's halfway between the 10 and the 10 1/4 is 10 1/8. Visually, I'm cutting off the piece that says "a friend like you is a special gift." Next cut's easy. It's 8 1/4. So 8 minus one column to the left is 8 1/4. Then 6 3/8. This is, I think, the last weird one. 6 3/8. So that's 6. I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 of those medium-sized hash marks. Or another way to look at it is you're going to be halfway between 6 1/4 and 6 1/2. You've got the 6 3/8. 4 1/2, almost there. And 2 1/4. So these two, celebrating you today, they both go in pocket B. And then you should have 1, 2, 3, 4 for pocket B. And then this strip, we're going to use it in card set C somehow. I can't remember how, but that's where that's going to go. Almost there. One more sheet, and we're going to, do the same kind of a deal. We have to remove that perimeter, so I'll make my generous cut on that first edge, do the rotation, so now I can see to align the hash mark at top and bottom. And I'm gonna just go at my own pace here. If you would like to just pause the video and work at your pace, and when you're finished, come back and we will trim the cut apart and file all those last pieces into the pocket where they belong. We'll begin with the black circles on the right, and I'm going to go ahead and find 9.5. And again, visually just make sure that it's separating off the strips here, and then slide down to 5.25. Give her a rotation. Nice easy cuts here, all whole numbers. 9, 6, and 3. Gather those pieces up, all for pocket C, Charlie. The next strip, guess what? Same thing. 9, 6, 3. Gather these up. These all go in pocket A. And for this one, every single piece is used in pocket C, Charlie. I'm going to go ahead and file it there. If you happen to have a circle punch or a thin cutting die, let's see, that's around 2 inches, that's kind of going to be perfect. Okay, so you can go ahead and remove those circles any way you wish. Now, if you don't have any of that special die cutting equipment or a special circle punch, go ahead and just use scissors and use that white line as your cutting guide. And again, I'm going to pop this in pocket B. You can trim, fussy cut this around the shadow of that Jacqueline puts around the image, so you don't have a lot of detail you have to do there. Makes it nice and easy. And that leaves me without any other paper to trim, so I'm going to swap out my trimmer for my score pal. Now, if you're unfamiliar with a score pal, this is a vital tool for a prolific card maker. If you don't have a score pal, of course, you can just simply fold these pieces of paper in half. But having the line scored is really helpful. So in this case, I'm going to take the papers from the top of the pile one by one, get them all scored. And I'm using a ball-tipped stylus to perform the score. You can also use the tip of a bone folder or your other favorite tool, but this is mine for the scoring. It engages well with the channel, so I'm finding 4.25, and that's such a common measurement that there's an asterisk even by that number. So you just have to, if you're using the score pal eighths, I believe the other score pals have that indication as well, because again, it's such a common number. So all 4 of these white card bases are scored at 4.25, and once you have all 4 of them done, you'll file them in pocket A. Now keep in mind that when we're scoring a duplex paper, we're going to have to use some pressure to make sure we get a nice line. So place it horizontally into the score pal, and the 9-inch side should be at the top, and then we'll score at 4.5. So we're just scoring it at half. And if you want to make a second pass, you can. And be careful to adjust your pressure here. This is still a pretty heavy piece of black cardstock, 4.5. The yellow is a little bit lighter. It's only 80 pounds. It's quite heavy. Give it a nice line. And then our last one of this size is orange. And again, giving it a nice firm score line, 2 passes if necessary. These card bases go in pocket C. And notice I'm just kind of plopping them in there at an angle. You don't have to shove them down in there. And next up, we have our 7x10s. And we're going to score these in half as well. So make sure the 10-inch side is level at the top, pushing firmly on the 5. Always just engage, push down, and then that ridge is going to guide the way for your scoring tool. 5, and then one last nice firm 5-inch score here on orange. And these will go in pocket C. Just scoring, trimming, and now we can go ahead and assembly line our card making. I'll set aside my score pal. I'm going to turn in my instructions to page 3 so I can take a look at where I'm headed. I do have some basic written instructions here in case you're not following along with the video, but I do like to share, tips along the way that I don't always write into the instructions. And now we're just going to empty pocket A and do what I call the deal. Usually I like to fold the card bases in half, and you'll want a bone folder on hand to help you with that. So I line up the edges. I don't just assume the score line is perfect. I always check to make sure my corners line up before I make the crease, and make sure that the bump or the raised portion of the score line is on the inside of the fold. And a lot of people mistakenly think it goes the other way, that the bump is on the outside, but that's not true. The bump of the score line is on the inside of the fold. Those score lines do really help give you a nice crisp fold. And then in this card set, I have 2 horizontal cards and 2 vertical cards. So that's kind of how we're going to look at them when we deal out all the pieces. Now look at all these pieces of differing sizes. So it would benefit us to sort them out probably from largest to smallest. You know, get everything organized by size. Because I didn't really have you pay attention to that when you were doing your filing, you know? I think I've got most of those in order here. That looks pretty good. Now, we're going to start out with 1 pink panel on this horizontal card, and then find an orange panel for the other horizontal. Black will go on this vertical here, and yellow on this one. So every card has a color. And then we have these 4 lovely printed panels. So 1, 2, oop, this one's a little smaller, 3, 4. Make sure that that other smaller oddball is not in the mix here. Then we have like a medium-sized plain panel. So we're going to do a color that's not yet on the card. We're going to start with orange here, then yellow, then pink, and black. Now I have another set of plain panels. So now we can add yet another color that's missing from the mix. So I'm going to start with black here, then pink, then yellow, and orange. How cool is that? Finally, we have our sentiments. So the world is a brighter place because of you. Same on this guy. And then for the vertical, we've got every kind deed plants a flower. I put the yellow one here and the orange one here. It's up to you. The rest of these pieces are for the inside of the cards. So let's just get those distributed. I believe I used the smaller panel of florals on this first card with "So Grateful to Call You My Friend." Then I used another smaller panel on this one that says "Feel Better Soon." I'm sorry, I went to the vertical. On this one, I used "So Grateful to Call You Friend." And on the final one, I used the print and thank you so much for your thoughtfulness on this guy. In your kit, you were given a set of 12 envelopes. So locate the set of the 4 smallest envelopes. And instead of just repeating the making of all 4 cards together on the video, I'm going to make one with you, and all the rest are assembled in exactly the same way. So I'm going to insert the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd card into an envelope, each with all the pieces required for the card. Oh my gosh, if you want, we have these lovely patches. Aren't they cute? I used one on each of these cards. So if you want to have everything ready to go, just add the patch to each envelope as well, and then one for the card that we're working on here. I'm going to set these aside, and this is the card we're going to use as our sample, and all the rest assemble in the same basic way. This is going to be so wonderfully easy. Before we attach anything to the card base, I want you to nest the printed panel, starting off a new roll of adhesive here. And if you're not using this type of tape gun and you want to be a prolific card maker, I highly recommend this over the little handhelds. Yeah, it's just, this goes so much faster, more efficiently. You're going to love it. There is a little bit of a learning curve. Be mindful of that. But once you master it, you're going to be like, man, I can't believe I suffered with that little tape runner all these years. Now here we're going to stretch a piece of this gorgeous sparkly pink ribbon across the card so that it goes past each edge, and just snip off a length there. And let's just determine the grain direction of the ribbon. Yes, ribbon has grain. So make sure it loops. And see how this doesn't want to really wrap, but this does? That's the way we want it to wrap around the card. So all I'm going to do is just maybe go 1.5 inches up maybe from the bottom edge. Make sure it's level. Bring the ends around to the back. And then I keep my cellophane tape in a desktop dispenser because I don't need 2 hands to dispense the tape. There we go. Now we can nest this guy onto our folded card base. Make sure it's going to open in the right direction. Have you ever done that? Glued your card onto the card base upside down? I have. I absolutely have. Okay, now I did something just a little wonky on these cards, and I love the look of it. But first, this black panel can nest onto the orange one. and it's gonna go nice and straight on there. This piece nests on at a slight angle. Now, when you're angling something, beware of tangents. Now, a tangent would be if I were to attach this to the panels where this corner of the white is touching the edge of the black. Same here. To avoid that, I'm just gonna make sure there's a little bit of air, a little bit of a space between this corner and that edge. Same here. So just be aware of that. Now this can be centered onto the card base. I usually like to just double check, see what my measurement's gonna be to make sure this is centered. Looks like I need 1, 2, 3, 4, 5/8 of an inch. And if this is not in your wheelhouse, I got my ruler centered here and I counted 5 cubes from the edge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then from the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And now I know that this piece will be centered if I do it at that measurement. So if you follow that, awesome. If you're not sure about how those rulers work, I do have a ruler basics video that might be really helpful because I just love to make sure that things are aligned and centered on my cards so that I'm leveling up as much as I can. The last thing we do here is add our patch. Now you can do this a number of ways. You can use a liquid glue if you want. I can't remember what I did on this. I probably use that. Another way to do it is just apply some of this quality ATG right to the spot. And I kind of put it where the center of the printed flower was. Yeah, it's so sweet, right? And it's done. Again, you could use the liquid glue and just give it a little drying time. For the inside, you can grab stuff out of the D pocket if you wish. And in this case, I'm just going to visually center this on the left edge so that the margin top, left, and bottom are equal. And then I'm going to take this guy. Do you see how fast that adhesive goes on? And this can be centered. Again, I eyeballed it. This is just super sweet. That is your card map for set A. Let me show you the remaining 3 cards that you will make once you, get back to it, or if you want to pause me and do the rest right now, that would be fantastic. Oh, here, I forgot to point this out. We have these fabulous stickers, self-adhesive, ready to go. So what I can do is I just select anything. I can do a small one if I want, and I usually use a craft knife to pick them up and then just drop them on. So maybe I'll grab a medium one here and put that there. I usually try to put something on in odd numbers, 3s, 5s, rather than 2s and 4s. Oh, look how sweet that is. Oh, love it. You have a whole sheet of these. There's no way you could possibly ever use all these stickers in this card set, but you could try. Or you can just go ahead and make more cards if you want. Now I have this rhinestone stuck to my fingertip here. Get off there. Okay, now he's on the knife. There we go. Then we have 2 vertical cards, and I did the same sort of tilted application of the sentiment, but instead of using the pink ribbon, I just did a double wrap with the jute. So that's, you have 2 yards of this. You can go around twice and tie a knot, or you could just go around twice, secure it at the back, and then add a bow to it. Totally up to you. There's my little rhinestones and my patch, and I just mounted this print in the upper left corner and centered the sentiment. On this one, I have that whole thing just centered on the inside, again with the jute. On this other horizontal one, I just wanted to point out that I went into my D pocket and I found a strip, and I just trimmed it to 5.5 inches to anchor this and add a little color to the inside of the white card base. So that's my story on these A2 cards. I think they're fabulous. I hope you like them too. And now it's time to move on to set B. Of course, that begins with emptying our pocket B. There are quite a few wee little pieces in here, so just be conscientious when you empty the pocket. And again, we are going to do a little sort by size. And we're also going to fold those card bases. We've got these panels. We've got some printed strips here, a bunch of those we trimmed at 1 inch. And again, a reminder that the bump of the score line goes on the inside of the fold. What's fun about these duplex cards is that you've got one color on the outside and a different color on the inside. And if you do have a preference of one color over the other, I mean, but you're sending these cards to other people who might like those colors that maybe aren't your favorite. My friend Rita, she loves orange, but pink is just not her thing. But sometimes you have to remember, you're not making the card for you, you're making it for someone else. Either way, you get orange and pink. You're stuck with it. Stuck with both colors, my friend Rita. Okay, I'm going to move on also to page 4, and then I can recreate what I see on these images in the instructions. And again, you don't have to print them. You can use them, you know, on a desktop or on some people use their cell phones. You can use it, you know, with a tablet, works really well too. So just be mindful of that. And notice I've distributed now the yellow, the pink, the black, and the orange, all in a horizontal orientation. Next up, I'm going to add some nesting panels. We'll go orange on the yellow, black with the pink, pink with the black, and then yellow onto the orange. Next up, grab those printed strips and put one in the upper left corner and one in the lower right corner of each card. Upper left, lower right, upper left, lower right, upper left, lower right. And then we have all of these colored panels. So you can really distribute this any way you like. I just added, instead of adding 2 black, I added 1 black in the lower left, 1 pink in the upper right, 1 yellow in the lower left, 1 orange in the upper right, 1 yellow in the lower left, orange in the upper right, black in the lower left, pink in the upper right. Okay, now we have the sentiments. All right, a friend, let's see, a friend like you is a special gift, and a friend like you is a special gift. You are sunshine in human form, and you are sunshine in human form. Next, let's distribute our inner sentiments. So celebrating you today, wishing you a beautiful birthday, and wishing you a beautiful birthday. Lastly, you'll have some narrow strips. I just use these as anchoring strips to add color to the inside of the card. Totally optional. I'm going to go orange, and you could go pink, you know, whatever you prefer. Then black on this one. I use the pink on this one and the yellow on that one. All right, so that's the plan for these cards. We've got our little envelopes. These are the medium-sized envelopes from the set that was provided with your kit. And I'm very proud that we always include the envelopes. I don't think a lot of card places include the envelopes. And there's nothing more frustrating than having a beautiful card, but no way to send it, or then you have to make your own envelope. So this is just a nice way to take care of you. And I'm going to set those aside, and we'll make this one together because, again, they all go together in the same way. Let's see, nothing really too critical here. The first step is going to be to make that little frame for your sentiment. And again, it's up to you if you want to use a ruler. I'm going to go ahead and add adhesive to my, you know, it's funny, I tend to flip everything over, but it's really important you do apply the adhesive to the orange side, or you're going to have orange on orange. Okay, so I have adhesive on all 4 of the pieces for this frame, this quilty sort of a feel. If you're using a ruler, the margin here is literally half of a cube. So if you want just to help you stay level, it's half a cube. And that's up to you if you want to do it that way. I mean, you could just eyeball this, and that's fine too. I just like to make sure that my pieces are level. And I could probably eyeball that here. No problem. It's not that far from the edge. Okay, I've built a frame just like a cute little quilt. And then this is going to fit perfectly in the middle, which is why this piece in particular had to be that weird measurement, because we're dividing a space into three pieces. And when that happens, we end up with like this leftover 1/8 of an inch. And if you don't care, I don't care why. I've done the math for you, so it's all figured out. So now that this panel is attached to the card, I'm just going to go on the inside and get that finished up. I'll use my ruler to place this in here, and be mindful that you'll need to center it as well from left to right with one cube on either side. And then you can add your sentiment anywhere. I'm just going to put it right down toward the bottom. Plenty of room to write a note, or you can add more handwriting there. Now for the outside, one last finishing touch involves the black jute that you have. And I simply made a little bow with it. So when I make my bows, I have a whole video about bow making. I just make the 2 ears, crisscross them, bring one loop through the hole at the bottom and pull. And look how big it is. That's okay. You don't have to have small hands or make it a small project to make a small bow. All you do is just keep pulling the tails until the loops of the bow are the size you want them to be. That's all there is to it. Then, if you want to add the bow, what I like to do is just add a little of our bookbinding glue and then put the knot of the bow right into the liquid. That's why I did this step last, okay? Then you can come in with your craft knife and your cute little sparkles. I'll add one here of a medium size. I just love this sheet of sparkles. Maybe one there. Again, in odd numbers to me is usually best. Easy peasy, right? What a cute card. I absolutely love it. Now, from that sheet of the printed, remember the 4 black circles that were on the Cutaparts? There is one of these that needs to be in this pocket here, and I had forgotten to file that. So if I can go back and fix that, I will, but just in case, I want to mention now here as I trim this out, just to show you how easy this can be. It doesn't have to be a day-long project. You just squiggle your way around that shadow, and it's going to give it kind of this nice little sticker look with a really nice consistent edge all the way around. And this is used on the 4th card in this set. Just wanted to mention that. So I'm going to pop it in that envelope for the 4th card. Now all of the other cards in this set are assembled in the same way. Just wanted to quick show you those with the reminder that I added that flower to this 4th card with a little bit of foam adhesive. Aren't they sweet? Absolutely love them. And now it's time to move on to set C. Of course, that once again begins with emptying the pocket, which has a lot of stuff in it, and sorting out the pieces by size, and go ahead and fold each card base with the bump of the score line on the inside of the fold. And my experienced card makers with me know that, and every time they fold a card base, they basically say in their head, bury the bump. So go ahead and get that done and get all those pieces sorted out. And why don't you pause me while you do that? And then we'll also turn to page 5 in the instructions. Let's begin by distributing our card bases. We'll go orange, how about pink, then yellow, and black. Next up, we'll take those larger plain panels and go yellow, black, pink, and orange. And we have the beautiful print that nests onto that panel with perfection. Lots of math goes into calculating the maximum amount of paper I can use on each card. And then we're gonna go a smaller panel of pink, and then orange, black, and yellow. Next up, we'll do our sentiments. Well done. You are amazing. I love that. Well done. It's graduation season, you know. Birthdays are like glazed donuts. No one is you, and that's your superpower. And to love and be loved is to feel the sun from both sides. I love all of those sentiments so much. If you happen to have your goodies handy, there are a set of 4 tags. 1, 2, 3, 4. And you also have this set of black circles here. So you're going to use one on each card. Now you could, again, trim these any way you like. You might have a punch that fits, you may not. It just is totally, you know, up to you how you distribute those and how you turn that into a circle to fit on the tag. And then for the inside of the cards, we are going to take the black strip. Let's go with our solid strips first. then yellow, orange, and pink. And then I was able to allocate a print for the inside of the cards as well to nest onto that strip. Then the sentiments, congrats, so happy for you. Sometimes it's better to forget how many you've had when it comes to glazed donuts and birthdays. And next up, congratulations here. And finally, happy anniversary on that last one. I have my 4 remaining A7 envelopes. So card 4 goes here. Card 3. Card 2. Notice like I even put them in the envelope sort of in the order that we were distributing them, because that's how they would be in the flow of your instructions. I just try to think of all the things, you know? Okay, this assembly is super simple. It's just a matter of layering. And if you equip yourself with the right tools, it doesn't take long with that ATG gun. Just I like to give it a strip on either side. Now this one, I think there's a little bit of margin here, so I'm just gonna double check. I think it's a 1/4 inch. Let me see. 1, 2, 3. 3/8 of an inch, so that's 3 cubes on your ruler from the edge. 1, 2, 3, and from the top and bottom edges. And then you know that large panel with a bigger margin is leveled and centered on the card base. Skip these inner things for a moment, and I'm gonna nest the well done, you're amazing, onto its panel. And then I'll adhere this to the card. And I think I just kind of did maybe a 1/4 of an inch from the edge on the right, and maybe about an inch down from the top. Okay, what shall we do with this? I am just going to go minimal here, minimalist, and simply cut with scissors along the white line. Now, when you're cutting a circle, it's impossible, I think, to do a perfect circle with scissors. So to get it as perfect as I can, I like to open the blade of my scissors as wide as will go and squeeze while I turn. That way you have fewer of those little hesitation marks or open close marks on the circle. That's definitely not perfect. I can neaten this up just a little here and here. Depends on how your eyes, you know, what kind of shape are your eyes in. That's not bad. Good job, Trisha. Look, it covers the hole, and that's absolutely fine because we're not going to suspend the tape from a hole. I'm going to use this really cute little yellow ribbon here, and I'm noticing the grain direction. And what you want to do is make one of those loops like this. Just, here it is. Just bring that around and give it a little tail. What does that remind you of? Okay, now I'm going to take this tag and add the loop to the tag so that I have a little peeking out the top and a little peeking out the bottom. Center it up with an X here in the middle and grab my tape and just, or any kind of adhesive, just hold it in place. Then I can come back with my adhesive and center that onto the scalloped edge tag. Adorable. Add this to my card. I kind of put the tag over so it just looks like you've got the cute little edges of the daisy there. Once again, I'll grab a few of these adorable self-adhesive rhinestones and just add a few accents to the card. You'll notice there's several colors here. You can, you know, do a variety, do a mix of the brighter yellows and the peaches and the different shades here. I'm going to go for 5. Another medium one here. Sweet. Okay, so now all that's left is the inside of the card. For starters, we can nest the print onto the strip. And I added this to the right edge of the card here. Let's see, are we talking 3/8 again? Yes, 3/8 of an inch. Doesn't that look nice rather than just putting the sentiment there? It's a nice surprise on the inside of the card. Again, you can use the ruler if you'd like. Either way, lovely. Now, the other cards in the set. So let's see, this is the one we made together, pretty much identical. And then they basically all are, they go together the same exact way, which is nice. It's just a nice little assembly line. You don't have to think too hard, no complicated folds. I did use a stitched edge cutting die here for my circle, but it looks just as nice when I hand cut it as well. So that's, again, totally up to you at your discretion. So thanks so much for joining me for this fun workshop. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed to our YouTube channel here at Club Scrap. And if you're not already a member of Club Scrap, think about joining us. Try out our page kit or card kit. Members always save on kits and everything else, so we'd love to have you join us, and look forward to seeing you again in another Club Scrap workshop. Thanks for coming.